She thought calling the cops would scare me. An HOA Karen pulled up to my gas station, demanded free gas, and when I said no, she smiled and said, "Fine, I am calling the police." What she didn't know, I wasn't just the owner. I was the police chief. In the moment that patrol car arrived, everything she thought she controlled collapsed. Stay till the end, because the twist hits hard. It started like any other ordinary morning at my gas station. The early rush had already passed, and things were calm, just a few regular customers filling up before work. The hum of pumps running, and paperwork waiting on the counter. I was in the middle of checking inventory when a white SUV rolled in and stopped abruptly at one of the pumps. The way it parked, slightly crooked, taking up more space than necessary, already felt off. Like whoever was driving didn't care about anyone else around them. The driver's door flew open, and a woman stepped out with an attitude that was impossible to miss. She didn't look lost, stressed, or even particularly rushed. Instead, she walked toward me with confident, irritated strides, sunglasses on, phone in hand, as if she already expected resistance and was prepared for it. She didn't greet me or ask for help. Her first words were a command. She said she needed gas immediately and that it was an emergency. I asked her how much gas she wanted, keeping my tone professional and neutral. That's when her expression shifted. She looked at me like I had just insulted her. She told me she wasn't paying, because as a member of the homeowners association, she was entitled to assistance during emergencies. According to her, businesses in the area were expected to support the community, and that meant giving her what she needed without question. I calmly explained that this was a privately owned gas station, not something funded or controlled by the HOA. I told her I'd be happy to sell her gas like any other customer, but I couldn't give it away for free. Before I could finish my sentence, she cut me off, waving her hand dismissively, as if the rules I was explaining didn't apply to her. She doubled down, insisting that her car was completely out of fuel and that refusing her request was unsafe and irresponsible. She claimed that if anything happened to her, it would be on me. The way she said it made it clear this wasn't about safety, it was about pressure. She expected me to panic, to feel guilty, and to give in. By now, a couple of customers nearby had started paying attention. They could tell something wasn't right. This wasn't a distressed driver asking for help. It was someone used to getting their way. I repeated myself, slowly and clearly, that I couldn't provide free gas and that the policy applied to everyone equally. That was the moment her patience disappeared entirely. Her voice got louder, her posture more aggressive. She told me I clearly didn't understand who I was dealing with and that people in my position usually cooperate once they realize who she is. It was obvious she believed this confrontation would end the same way it always had for her, with someone backing down. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't intimidated. And I wasn't going to bend the rules just to satisfy her sense of entitlement. That refusal, simple as it was, set off a chain of events she clearly hadn't planned for. The moment she realized I wasn't going to give in, her entire tone shifted from demanding to threatening. She let out a short, sarcastic laugh and leaned slightly closer to me, lowering her voice just enough to make it feel personal. That's when she delivered the line she clearly believed would end the conversation. "Do you know who I am?" It wasn't a question meant to be answered. It was a signal that she was about to use her status as a weapon. She straightened up and began listing her credentials as if she were reading from a script she memorized long ago. She explained that she was on the HOA board, that she lived in the community for years, and that she had a lot of influence over which businesses were welcomed and which ones suddenly started having problems. Every sentence was soaked in confidence, like she played this exact game before and won. She went on to explain how businesses that refused to cooperate often found themselves dealing with surprise inspections, endless complaints, and drawn-out permit issues. She didn't say she would cause those problems directly, but she didn't have to. The implication was clear. In her mind, I had two options: give her what she wanted, or deal with consequences she was more than happy to help create. I listened without interrupting, not because I was intimidated, but because I wanted to see just how far she was willing to take it. As she talked, Her voice grew louder, making sure nearby customers could hear. It felt intentional, like she wanted witnesses not to the truth, but to her authority. She wanted this to look like a business owner refusing a powerful community figure, not a woman demanding free gas. I calmly told her that her HOA position didn't change the fact that this was private property and that threatening a business over free gas wasn't appropriate. I said I wasn't interested in arguing, and that if she wanted gas, she could pay like everyone else. The firmness of my response seemed to shock her. She wasn't used to being told no, especially not without someone backing down a few seconds later. Her face tightened, and she scoffed, shaking her head as if I were the unreasonable one. She accused me of being disrespectful and claimed that people like me were the reason communities fell apart. She even suggested that my refusal proved I shouldn't be running a business in the area at all. Each comment was designed to provoke a reaction, to make me defensive or angry. When that still didn't work, she delivered what she clearly thought was her final move. She told me that this situation was about to go way above my head, and that I'd regret not resolving it when I had the chance. There was no shouting yet, just cold certainty. In her mind, she'd already won. She was convinced that once she involved the authorities, the power dynamic would shift back in her favor. What she didn't know was that calling the police was the worst possible choice she could have made. Without another word, she pulled her phone out of her purse with a sharp, deliberate motion. There was no hesitation, no doubt in her mind. In fact, the look on her face said she had been waiting for this moment. She turned slightly away from me, positioning herself so that nearby customers could clearly see and hear what she was about to do. Then she tapped her screen and put the phone to her ear. She spoke loudly, carefully choosing her words as if she were building a case in real time. She told the dispatcher that she was stranded at a gas station and that the owner was refusing to help her during an emergency. She said her vehicle had run out of gas completely and that she felt unsafe. She never mentioned demanding free fuel or threatening the business. Instead, she framed herself as a helpless community member being denied basic assistance. As she talked, she kept glancing over at me, watching for reaction. Every time she used phrases like refusing emergency aid or hostile behavior, a satisfied smile appeared on her face. It was obvious she believed the situation had finally tilted in her favor. In her mind, the moment she involved the police, I would either panic or immediately cave to avoid trouble. I didn't say a word. I stayed where I was, calm and composed, letting her finish the call without interruption. That silence seemed to irritate her even more. She wanted an argument, a visible sign that her threat had worked. Instead, she got nothing. Around us, the atmosphere had changed. Customers had stopped pretending not to listen. A couple of people paused mid-fill, watching openly now, sensing that this was about to escalate. She ended the call and slipped the phone back into her hand, not her pocket, as if she might need it again to document the moment. With a smug tone, she announced that the police were on their way. She said it loudly, almost proudly, like she'd just delivered the final blow. According to her, the officers would straighten this out quickly and explain to me how wrong I was. She reminded me again that she was on the HOA board, repeating it as if it were a badge that granted immunity. She said the police would take her side once they heard who she was and what I'd done. The confidence in her voice was absolute. She had no doubt that the system would back her up, just like it always had before. Meanwhile, I stayed exactly where I was. I didn't call anyone. I didn't argue. I didn't even look concerned. That seemed to confuse her. The longer I remained calm, the more she filled the silence with nervous commentary, repeating parts of her story out loud as if rehearsing for when the officers arrived. What she didn't understand was that by calling the police under false pretenses, she crossed a line she couldn't step back from. This was no longer about gas or an HOA dispute. She had officially turned it into a legal matter. And once that happens, control no longer belongs to the loudest person in the room. As the distant sound of sirens began to grow closer, her confidence hardened into expectation. She was convinced she was about to prove a point not just to me, but to everyone watching. She stood there waiting, unaware that the very call she believed would save her was about to expose her entitlement in the most public way possible. The patrol car pulled into the gas station slowly, without lights or sirens, and parked near the pumps. The moment Karen saw it, her posture changed completely. She straightened her back, lifted her chin, and folded her arms with a look of confidence that said she believed this was the moment everything would go her way. She took a few steps forward, ready to greet the officers as if they were already on her side. One of the officers stepped out of the car and scanned the scene calmly. There was no rush, no urgency, just a professional assessment of what was going on. Karen immediately started talking, walking toward him and speaking fast, repeating the same version of events she told on the phone. She said she had been stranded, that I had refused to help her during an emergency, and that she felt threatened and disrespected. She made sure to mention her HOA position again, emphasizing it as if it were relevant to the situation. The officer listened without interrupting, his expression neutral. When she finished, he turned his attention toward me. Karen clearly expected him to start questioning me aggressively or ordering me to comply. Instead, the officer paused, looked at me carefully, and then did something she clearly didn't expect. He nodded respectfully and addressed me by title, asking if everything was okay. The change was instant. Karen's confident expression froze, like her brain had stalled trying to process what she just heard. For a second, she looked around as if she thought she might have misunderstood. Then the realization started to sink in. The officer wasn't treating me like a suspect. He was treating me like a superior. She tried to interrupt, laughing nervously and saying there must be some kind of mistake. The officer calmly clarified that there wasn't. He acknowledged me again, confirming my role, and asked for my account of what had happened. At that point, Karen's body language completely collapsed. The crossed arms dropped. Her shoulders sagged. The authority she'd been leaning on moments earlier evaporated. I explained the situation simply and clearly. I described her demand for free gas, her threats involving the HOA, and her decision to call the police when she didn't get her way. I didn't raise my voice or embellish anything. I just stated the facts. As I spoke, Karen's face shifted from shock to discomfort. She avoided eye contact, staring at the ground or fiddling with her phone, no longer eager to be heard. The officer listened, nodded, and then turned back to her. This time, his tone was different, firm but still professional. He asked her a few direct questions about the call she made and the claims she reported. Her answers were hesitant now, full of half-statements and backtracking. The confidence she displayed earlier was completely gone. The customers watching nearby had gone quiet, fully aware they were witnessing a dramatic reversal. The power dynamic had flipped entirely. The person who had tried to control the situation by calling the police was now the one struggling to explain herself, while the authority she thought she could manipulate stood calmly in front of her. In just a few minutes, everything she thought she knew about the situation had unraveled, and there was no way to put it back together. The moment the officer finished asking his questions, it became painfully clear that the situation was no longer going to end the way she had imagined. Her story didn't hold up, and the contradictions were obvious. What started as a confident attempt to force compliance had now turned into an uncomfortable explanation she couldn't cleanly give. She tried softening her tone, insisting she was just stressed, and that she may have overreacted, but the damage was already done. The officer explained, calmly but firmly, that calling the police under false pretenses is a serious issue. Emergency services are not tools to be used for personal disputes or to pressure businesses into giving special treatment. HOA status, board membership, or community influence does not override the law, and it certainly doesn't justify filing a misleading report. As he spoke, she nodded repeatedly, not in agreement, but in panic, like someone realizing they've crossed a line they didn't know how to uncross. She attempted one last pivot, saying she only wanted help and didn't intend to cause trouble. But intent didn't change the facts. She had demanded free gas, issued threats, and then called the police when she didn't get her way. That sequence mattered. The officer issued her a formal warning and documented the incident, making it clear that a repeat offense could result in citations or worse. Hearing that, her shoulders slumped even further. There was no apology to me, just quiet embarrassment. She avoided eye contact, her earlier arrogance replaced by visible discomfort. The gas pump she'd been standing next to the entire time remained untouched. After all that effort to assert control, she still didn't get the one thing she came for. She turned and walked back to her SUV without another word. No dramatic exit. No final comment, just silence. As she drove away, the tension at the station slowly lifted. A few customers exchanged looks, some shaking their heads in disbelief. One person muttered that they'd seen behavior like that before, but never watched it fall apart so completely. My staff relaxed, returning to their work now that the confrontation was over. Everything went back to normal. But the lesson lingered. What she failed to understand was simple. Authority isn't about who can shout the loudest or make the biggest threats. Real authority is quiet, measured, and bound by rules. HOA influence might work in meetings or email chains, but it doesn't give someone the right to manipulate emergency services or demand free resources from a private business. In the end, she left with nothing: no gas, no leverage, and no dignity, while everyone else walked away with a reminder that entitlement has limits. When someone tries to weaponize power they don't truly have, the outcome isn't control. It has consequences. If you enjoy real HOA Karen stories where entitlement backfires hard, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We post real-life drama, instant karma, and situations where abuse of power doesn't work. Subscribe now, because the next story is even crazier.